Um, well, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to be here, to be invited in Milano, and especially in these very exciting times for you and for us in Europe. Thank you also for your kind words. They were a little bit longer in Italian than they were in English, but okay, that's a language difference, I suppose, cultural difference. And I would like to speak today about work engagement and share with you some of the main research findings that we found during the last decade or so. Okay, this is a little bit of geography. So for those who do not know where the Netherlands is, it's over there, somewhere in the far corner, and Utrecht is in the center of the Netherlands. It's actually quite close to Amsterdam. If you take the train from Utrecht to Schiphol Airport, it's about just as far as from Malpensa to the city of Milano. But it's a small country, as I said. My university is located somewhat outside of Utrecht. As you can see here, we are an agricultural country because we have actually more sheep and cows and pigs than we have people around. But the building that I'm working in is, well, quite the same as here. It has even the same color, I guess. And this is the city of Utrecht, which resembles a lot of the city of Amsterdam. We even have coffee shops for those who are interested in it. And we have canals and we have bicycles. So next time you visit Amsterdam, please also visit Utrecht because it's really worthwhile. And there are a lot less tourists, which is also an advantage, I guess. So the topics I want to cover this morning is actually to go a little bit, not too far, because you are all interested in positive psychology, and Antonella also said something about it. Tell you a little bit about the change, the turn into positive occupational health, and then I would go into work engagement, tell you something about concept and how we measure it, about study results and about conceptual models, how to understand a little bit what is the background and the mechanisms that drive work engagement. And finally, I will say something about interventions. But first of all, this is a question to you. What do you see here? Anatra, I think it is. Anatra. And what about a rabbit? Consiglio. Okay. So, but you can see both of them, I hope. And not at the same time, because when you see me at the same time, you have a psychiatric problem, and you should go to some neurologist, because we are not able to see those images at the same time, but we can flip it around very frequently. So why do I show this to you? Well, actually, you can apply this analogy to the workplace, because here you have a typical workplace, or perhaps not a typical workplace, and you can look to that workplace from two different perspectives. First of all, you can say, well, this guy is working in a small workshop. He's making something with his hands. He's making a real product that you can feel, that you can see. So this is all positive. On the other hand, you can also see that he turns his back to the other guy. So probably they have a conflict. And here is something oil on the floor, so maybe it's unsafe. So you see, you can look at workplaces from two perspectives, from the positive and from the negative. Of course, this is all being true. And traditionally, psychology is actually looking to the workplace in terms of effort, strain, sacrifice, in, let's say, the negative way. Man as working animal. This is the kind of analogy. But on the other hand, we also have creative man. People who actually develop their talents when they work. They are productive. They create something. And this is the positive side of work. And that's actually where I'm talking about right now. The traditional view, and this is very nice in English because it alliterates like that, the 4 Ds, disease, disorder, damage, and disability. This is the traditional view also in my field of occupational health psychology. Interestingly, it's called occupational health psychology, but traditionally it's actually about ill health. As you can see, I think in the next slide. Antonella presented some more optimistic figures. These figures are from 2000, where this Mr. Myers counted the number of articles in psychology that are either positive or negative, deal with positive or negative issues, and he found a ratio of 70 negative articles against only 1 positive item. positive articles. So here you can see 70,000 on depression. The latest figures are even more depressing, I think, because we have over 100,000 articles on depression, and still we don't know actually what it is. This is the depressing thing. We have joy, happiness, satisfaction, and it is on the rise, it is rising. But the point I want to make is that at the beginning of the positive psychology movement around the turn of the century, this was a state of affairs. If you apply it to my field actually, so I did research in burnout before, and then you see that there is about 23 versus 1 article published on burnout or published on work engagement. So there is still a lot of work to do, I guess. And these are the typical topics in occupational health psychology. As I said, occupational health psychology. Actually, it is the wrong name. So we should say occupational ill health psychology. So the whole thing is about change, time for change. And this is the change that I'm talking about, positive occupational health psychology, so real health psychology. Scientific study of optimal employee health, well-being and functioning, so it's not only about health but also about functioning, also about performance. Aims to discover and promote, so discover is scientific, promote is more practical, how you can do that in practice. Factors that allow individuals, but not only individuals, but also organizations to thrive. So you see it looks simple, the definition, but there is a little bit more behind. But there is also a personal story to be told, because it's not at random that people like particular subjects. Actually, I started my research career on burnout. That's not to say that I was burnout at that time, but after 10 years of burnout research, you probably, well, I would not say you are burned out on the subject, but a little bit like, is that all there is? But there was more than that, because my experience was when you go into companies and you talk about sickness, absenteeism, about stress, about burnout, about all those negative things, then the standard question of HR officers or managers or workers or unions was always, but what about those who thrive? What about those who actually do their work, have fun in their work, are engaged, the word that they probably also used. So I started also to think, okay, well, burnout is one thing, but how come that some people, probably in the same context or slightly different context, thrive? So there was also this kind of scientific curiosity. This is the scientific part, but if you look, I will not go through all this because it will take too long, but the idea is that organizations change, and the next slide shows you also that work is changing. And the interesting thing is that the change is going into a particular direction. And the direction actually is that the mental capital of workers becomes more and more important. For instance, take stability and continuous change. If a situation is stable, then you don't have to do anything. If there is continuous change, you have to adapt. You have to deal with uncertainty. If the workplace is diverse, as it is now in my country, when you go, for instance, to a company, to a factory, you find 5, 7, 10, 20 different languages spoken, different cultures, of course men and women, people with different labor contracts. So there's a lot of diversity. That means when you are working as a worker, you have to adapt to this social reality that is changing. You have to be empathic to understand other people.